In this video I'll be going over the infected from The Last of Us Part 1 with some custom animations that I personally made. There are 4 kinds of infected in The Last of Us Part 1, each more deadly and gruesome than the last. But first, some quick background. You can skip ahead using the timestamps below if you're all caught up. Spoilers. The Last of Us universe is set in a version of our universe where in 2013 a fungal infection breaks out and rapidly spreads, infecting around 60% of the human population. The story centers around Joel, a survivor of the outbreak who is tasked with transporting a girl across the country. In the prologue, Joel comes home late at night from work to his daughter who has just woken up. The audience experiences the prologue through Joel's daughter Sarah. Joel, who's already aware of the outbreak, finds Sarah just in time before they encounter their neighbor who has already been infected and breaks into their house.
Jimmy! Jimmy, just stay back! Jimmy, I am warning you! Don't!
Joel dispatches him, killing his first infected. Joel and Sarah meet up with Joel's brother Tommy, and the group makes their way to the highway where they are obstructed. They divert their route and later crash due to all the chaos and all 3 survive this crash, and Tommy clears the way for Sarah and Joel to escape. While running away, they're intercepted by a soldier who stops them, waiting for orders on how to proceed. The soldier receives his instructions, hesitates, tries to object, but finally follows them by dispatching the father and daughter. Joel manages to survive unscathed while Sarah is shot. Before the soldier can finish off Joel, Tommy comes to the rescue and dispatches the soldier. Sarah passes a few moments later in Joel's arms, crying. In the words of Bill, at least those things are predictable. It's normal people that scare me. Despite literal monsters roaming the streets, Joel's dearest loved one is taken away by another person. A theme that the story will continue to follow from part 1 to part 2. But we're not here to analyze the entire game or the story, we're here to analyze the enemies. More specifically, we're here to analyze the infected. In the first game, the infected have 5 stages, this being the runner, stalker, clicker, bloater, and finally death. When the infected naturally die or reach a certain stage of maturity, they attach themselves to a nearby surface where the fungus continues to spread, eventually reaching a stage where the body begins to release spores to potentially infect other victims. Going chronologically, the runner is the first stage of the infection. Runners are the individuals who have only recently turned. Once infected, it takes a grown adult about 2 days to turn into a runner, depending on exactly where the victim was infected. For children, the time it takes is less than half of an adult, or so it seems. Runners look like disheveled versions of their former selves, discolored skin and bloody. From afar, you may confuse them for being human, but up close, it's plain to see that they're monsters. Runners generally aren't too much of a threat, especially compared to the others on this list. Runners are fast, which is likely their most dangerous trait, but they are weak, making them easy to deal with except in certain situations, such as when they're in groups. In groups, runners make up for their individual weaknesses and double down on their strength. A group of runners can be more than enough to bring down even the most skilled of survivors. Runners have decent vision, which makes them stand out from the other kinds of infected. Runners are also especially dangerous in groups with other kinds of infected, where they can alert them to survivors, serving as their eyes. Most, if not all, conventional means of attack will take down runners. Guns, explosives, knives, pipes, and even your bare fists can be used to take them down, assuming you're somewhat experienced in combat. But the best course of action against runners is to use stealth, especially if they're in groups. This conserves ammo. What's interesting about runners is that it seems they haven't completely lost their humanity. They can be heard screaming, moaning, and even crying when attacking people. It's assumed that the victims are still there, trapped inside. Their humanity is still intact, but they're just a passenger to what's happening and are slowly losing themselves to the infection. Next Next up are the Stalkers. Stalkers are the second stage of the infection. This stage usually starts and ends at around 2 weeks to a year. Stalkers are the midpoint between the runners and the clickers, which we will discuss later. Stalkers completely lose the facet of looking human. You can instantly tell that these monsters are far from human. They don't look completely alien like the clickers, but they are far removed from their past selves. Bloody, grey, lifeless, and covered in the fungus. Stalkers still have vision, so they can see the player, but their vision is worse than that of a runner. This is because of the way the infection spreads and because stalkers are further along than runners. The infection spreads, covering and later destroying the eyes. Stalkers make up for their poor vision in several ways. They are just as fast as runners, if not faster, and they are definitely stronger. Where runners can be taken care of with just your bare hands, stalkers will take more to kill. Stalkers also have the unique ability of stalking. They can be found in dark and abandoned buildings, and they'll use the darkness to their advantage, sneaking up on you and attacking. Stalkers are a moderate threat alone and a serious threat in groups, especially if you're caught off guard in a dark place. Stalkers can be killed with most weapons, melee or otherwise. Guns are recommended as they are stronger than runners. Finally, stalkers also show the beginning signs of echolocation that the more advanced infected have. The stalker's clicking comes off more as croaking, and the echolocation is not as refined. Next up are the clickers, the face of the game. Clickers are the most recognizable enemy in The Last of Us. It takes at least 1 year of the fungal infection to become a clicker. Clickers are almost completely devoid of any human features other than their humanoid shape. Clickers are completely covered in the fungus, which is most apparent on their face, where they have developed fungal plates which have spread through the brain, cracking the skull and blinding the clicker. These plates are more damage resistant than the normal skin and are spread across the body, which allows them to tank shots from lower caliber guns. Clickers are grey and lifeless with orange highlights produced by the fungus. Their clothes have almost withered away and they have a distinct limp walk. Clickers are much tougher to kill than both runners and stalkers. They have a powerful mix of speed, strength and toughness, the only downsides being their vision. Clickers are completely blind. They rely on echolocation to find their targets. Out in the open this can be heavily exploited, but in buildings the echolocation is a decent substitute to their vision and a superior one in darkness. If survivors are anything but dead silent, then the clickers will catch them out. Clickers have a lot more damage resistant than the other types of infected. This is manageable if there is only one clicker, but clickers in any sort of group becomes a very serious threat. Clickers also have greater physical strength than the average human. When they do become aware of your position, they'll sprint at you, flailing their arms aggressively, trying to make any sort of contact. Once they do, they'll grab onto you and from there it's over. It's best to avoid close quarter fights with clickers. So how can you kill these monsters? It's probably best to avoid low caliber guns. Clickers can tank a lot of those types of shots. If you're going to go with guns, it's best to use some kind of shotgun, rifle or bow and arrow. The best way to approach clickers in groups is one-on-one with stealth, whether that's with a bow or with shivs and knives with stealth takedowns. Explosives also work really well against clickers. Explosives can be used to take out a lot of them and still remain hidden by setting up traps. If you're going to try melee them, it's best to knock them off balance or to stun them with a bottle or brick first. Lastly, our final enemy is the bloater. The bloater is the biggest, strongest and scariest enemy in the first game. It takes a few years for infected to become a bloater. Bloaters are the final stage of the infection that can be encountered in the first game. Bloaters look similar to clickers but are much bulkier. Bloaters stand around 6 feet tall with thick fungal plates that protect them from a lot of damage. Bloaters are able to tank many shots from even the most high-powered guns. Bloaters are also completely blind due to the fungus and use echolocation like the clicker. clickers. However, this echolocation is not as refined or precise as the clickers' echolocation. Due to the overgrowth of the fungus, their locating abilities are severely hampered and their actual clicking is much deeper and raspier. Bloaters have no remnants of human qualities, unlike clickers who at least have some disheveled clothing. Bloaters are freakishly strong. There is no chance against them in any sort of melee fight. The bloater is simply too strong and too tough. If the bloater gets a hold of you, he'll rip jaw from skull. Where clickers bite to kill in a more zombie-like way, bloaters completely brutalize their victims. Their finishing blows are too brutal to even show. Like I said, the bloater has very thick fungal plates, and on top of that they have fungus sacs attached to their bodies that they rip off and throw at humans to stun, disorientate and burn. Bloaters have also been seen in the series breaking through buildings. So killing bloaters is very difficult. There is no one thing that you can use to kill them. You need to throw everything you have at them. The best way to do this, ideally, is catching them unaware by setting up as many explosives traps as possible, hitting them quick and hard, then unloading as much firepower as possible, starting with the highest caliber first. When put like that, it doesn't sound so bad. That's if you can sneak up on them first, which often doesn't happen for various reasons. If the bloater catches you unaware, it's the same strategy, just run and avoid the bloater while you do everything. Bloaters are almost never alone. Runners will often act as sentries for bloaters, and any other infected around them is just a bonus. And that's all the kinds of infected in the first game. There are other kinds of enemies, human enemies. These are your standard types of raiders and or soldiers. Overall, the enemies in The Last of Us are great. They are a type of zombie, but I'd consider them pretty unique, especially unique for the time the game was released. These enemies felt incredibly new and scary at that time. Overall, the game still holds up in the current day, especially with the many remasters. Thank you for watching, like and sub.